What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here with a name you know. We've had him here, a couple times, I believe, but Squared Circle Expo, April 25th, April 26th. I was just talking off air about how much fun I have at this show. I am not going to WrestleMania week this year. In fact, a few days after, I am headed to Indianapolis to Wyndham and enjoying Squared Circle Expo. And we have Ed to talk to you about it. How you doing, man?
Hey, brother, I am doing great. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's a good
Yeah.
time, a good time of year. Spring has sprung.
It is getting there. It is getting there. Still a little cold here. It's
Yeah.
colder than I'd like it to be.
Yeah, you're not that far from me. We get this. We get everything. It's probably gonna snow next week, you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
very
it's
true.
it's a pain, but I'll tell you what isn't a pain.
Never say never.
I'll tell you what's not a pain. Squared Circle Expo, by God. One of my favorite weeks when, I'm not beating up an Australian woman or Hornswoggle's not choke slamming me or anything like that. I get to go there and see people like Bret the Hitman Hart, like Swerve, like Lex Luger right after his Hall of Fame induction, like Mick Foley, like a whole gaggle is the term I'll use of AEW stars that are going to be there at Squared Circle Expo. It feels like it gets bigger every year.
Oh, brother, it's not a pain for you, but for some of us, it might be a little bit.
I
um,
love it. I enjoy it, man. Like I have so much fun there. Like seeing friends, seeing colleagues, seeing people that read our stuff. Like it is always such a wonderful and positive vibe.
Yeah, bro. That's what we try to cultivate above and beyond anything else. We have the stars. I think we're going to end up with over 100 different wrestling superstars this year, which is just insane. I remember when we first started, we were talking about, yeah, man, we'll get like 30, 40 guys.
Yeah.
We'll have a good time. And we've never had 30 or 40 guys, and
Yeah.
this year we are eclipsing the 100. And but you having a good time, that's the most important part for me. A lot of conventions out there, a lot of conventions, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's WrestleCon, WrestleCade, StarCast, there's so many of them. And not just in wrestling, right? Like there's horror and television and movie conventions, toy conventions. I like to veer a little bit off to the side from a lot of those places because most of those, and this is not me dogging them, this is not me, this is just me saying most of those places, the moment you walk in, they want you to spend your money. That's
Yeah.
what they do. When you come to Squared Circle Expo, spend a couple bucks, but have a good time. That's first and foremost.
And Indianapolis is a great city. Like it's one that I've grown to love. I especially love that WWE brought a bunch of pay-per-views there over the next few years and I can drive home after them. But like you don't live in Indianapolis. We talked about this before. You love the location, you know that it's a good area. It's one that I see as welcoming. Like I've got Louisville, Lexington, Cincinnati in this nice little triangle, but I like making the drive up to Indianapolis. It is a great place.
Well, that's the thing too. Listen, when we started Squared Circle Expo, we're going on our 5th year. There was nothing going on in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Now, of course, WWE's moved to town. They just had the Rumble there at the beginning of the year. People are starting to recognize Indianapolis as that go-to town, but we recognized it long before that. And you got conventions on every corner of the country, but nothing in the middle. And what's more middle than Indianapolis?
Yeah, it is. I always say that out where we are is the middle of nowhere and in the middle of everything as well. Like it's very easy to get everywhere from where we are. And you mentioned how it's wrestling centric. You do still have people like Paul Walter Hauser, who's an award-winning actor, Mike O'Malley. Like, listen, I've been begging that guy to give me a piece of the aggro crag for years at this point. But his connection to heels, like there are so many. I mean, listen, you can even throw Sergeant Slaughter in there, G.I. Joe Star, for the love of God. Like there are wrestling is also involved in everything. A few of the other names like Joe Hendry, who has blown up this year. JBL, who is literally everywhere. Even if you didn't advertise him, he was going to show up and hit somebody. Will Ospreay, Kurt Angle, like names like from everywhere come to this, but that's not it. You do wrestling events too. And I encourage people, don't be put off by the fact that I have wrestled on a couple of these in the past. But like the stars that end up popping up in these and appearing on these, like last year, Cardona versus Nick Nemeth opened the show on one of these events. How do you go about deciding, like, okay, I'm going to bring in this company to put on an event?
Here's the thing. Like, Saturday night's our show, right? Saturday night is Squared Circle Expo. That's our event. The Friday night event is being put on by Black Label Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the short version is when Squared Circle Expo first started, man, I couldn't get anybody to pick up the phone. I could not get a soul to answer, hey, I've got this great idea. I want you to be a part of it. Left on red. Left on red, left on red. Well, Mikey over there at Black Label Pro, he didn't leave me on red. He heard me out, and he liked the idea. And so Black Label Pro has been running our Friday night wrestling event every year for the last 3 years. So now, of course, I have to hang up the phone and not answer it when people call. But back then, there wasn't a lot of people wanting to listen to Ed. So Black Label Pro will be running their Friday night event. They got some big names on there. We'll be running our Saturday night, same location, everything all in house. Superstars from across the globe. I mean, hell, last year our main event was Nick Nemeth versus Ultimo Dragon.
It's incredible.
I mean,
incredible.
Where else? Back then it was 2024, but where else in 2024 are you going to see Nick Nemeth versus Ultimo Dragon? Right?
Unbelievable. So I want to say about 5 years ago, a wrestling company, before it was pandemic prevented it, but they attached my name to one of their shows, all that stuff. I wasn't booking it. I wasn't promoting it, just my face on it. And the amount of "can I get booked, brother" calls that I got was insane. How do you balance that between you being a great guy and a really good businessman and everybody wanting a little piece?
In the beginning, it was easy because I was begging people to be on the show, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, I never had enough guys or girls. Like, I just didn't. And now I have too many. I'm not going to say a name, but actually, literally yesterday, I had a pretty dominant, I'd say very high-ranking AEW superstar get in touch with me yesterday and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. And I tried to explain to them, I don't have any room. Like, I have no room. It's not that I don't want you, because I would love to have you. If this call would have came to me 3 months ago, you'd have been there. Yeah. But it came yesterday, and yesterday I have no room. And, it's a lot of it is, hey, brother, I appreciate you reaching out, but creative's got nothing for you, and I don't even have the room for you. So, at this point, we're going to start going, multi floors, right? Square Circle Expo level 1 and 2.
It gets bigger every year. Like, I mean, I know you've got a great relationship with the Wyndham, but is that something that you all have had to look at, like expanding and doing somewhere else?
Yes, but it's not a simple answer. One, these places, they book out years in advance, right? So It can't just be, hey, this year we're going to be in a different building, because that building might not be available. But two is we've kind of sat around and thought to ourselves, can we go into a bigger place? Absolutely. But would I rather take Squared Circle Expo into this massive venue and not fill it, and it looks empty, even though it might not be, and it looks empty? Or do I want to keep it in this, smaller venue that we have to say, sorry, there are no more tickets, right? We're okay. And this kind of goes back to, everybody wants you to spend your money. We want you to have fun. We want you to have fun. Could we make more money by going to a bigger venue? Absolutely, we could. that's not what we're in it for. We want everybody to have a good time. And how great is a limited ticket? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fact that you get that limited ticket, how much better does that make you feel instead of going, oh, well, that place fits 30,000 people. We'll get them tomorrow. We'll get them the next day. No, you got to get them now.
How do you feel when the weekend is over? Is it a sense of accomplishment? Is it a sense of relief? Is it a sense of dread that you're doing this again? Which, I mean, obviously, you've got to love it to some degree or you wouldn't do it.
Oh,
But
for sure.
also, the pressure associated with it is heavy.
Oh, brother, it's like surviving an exorcism. On that Sunday that we drive home with our cars packed to the brim, and it's a sigh of relief, but at the same time it's okay, let's get to work on the next one, because that's really what happens. We get a lot of our headliners, they hit us up. Bret Hart's guy hit me up on my drive home from last year's Squared Circle Expo and said we need to get Bret Hart at Squared Circle Expo.
Yeah.
That was the day after. And here we are.
That's ideally the way that that you would like it, right? Like you get a headliner the day after.
The day after, I think a lot of it's reputation, right? In the beginning, nobody picked up my phone calls because nobody knew who I was or what we were doing. There was no proven track record. And now, people have heard our name. People have heard that we take care of everybody. We got a saying. We're 0% Carney. 0%. We are going to be 100% up front. Everybody's taken care of and everybody's good. And the agents, the promoters, the fans, everybody hears about it. So they like to come and party.
So if I remember right, originally, were you all scheduled for the week that ended up being Mania week?
So every year for the last 4 years, we have been on Easter weekend.
Yes.
And the reason we were on Easter weekend is, one, it's kind of a long weekend. It's a holiday weekend. Mm-hmm. Families are together, but sometimes you want to leave that family and you want to go to a good place to go. And that's always benefited us.
So they used to do Thanksgiving night shows an awful lot.
Exactly. And, luckily for us, WrestleMania in its 40-year history has never ran on Easter. They've run around Easter. They've run the week before, the week after, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks. They've always ran around Easter, but never on Easter. So we always said, oh, we're safe. WrestleCade over in North Carolina, they run Thanksgiving weekend every year. And we thought, okay, Easter is going to be our weekend.
Yes.
WrestleMania that year did not announce their dates at WrestleMania, which they normally always do.
Yes.
And we had to get the hotel set up. We had to get, the ideas rolling. And we said, hell, let's just go ahead and rock out on Easter. WrestleMania ain't announced the week yet. But you know what? It's not like they're going to run on Easter. And then they decided we're going to run on Easter.
So this same thing happened to me a few years ago. So until this Indianapolis Rumble, I had never been able to drive home from a PLE ever. And then they announced SummerSlam in Nashville. And I was like, oh my God, I'll be able to do it. It'll be a long drive, but I can do it.
What's 4 hours? What's 4 hours?
Yeah. And I can't even remember if I was in Ewing or Lexington at that point, but it was 3 to 4 hours. Yeah. Well, then I get informed that Denise Salcedo's wedding is the day after SummerSlam. So I'm talking like I got to be in California 9 hours after SummerSlam ends.
Oh.
And why did she do that, you ask? Because WWE had never run SummerSlam in July in the history of the company. Yep. So instead, I drove to Nashville. My wife and I flew 5 hours after SummerSlam ended to LA, and then we had to fly back to Nashville. And then when we landed, my wife's first day at her new job started 6 hours after we landed.
Yeah, bro,
Oh, it's
that's
horrible. It was
that's bad
horrible.
news bears right there.
It was
Oh,
horrible. I'm interested. What do you think WWE's foray into Indianapolis? Do you think it will see a bump or a decline? Do you think it will affect you whatsoever? Do you think there might be some new wrestling fans in that area?
so I do. I think there's, at least from our vantage point, right? Like for WWE, it's all good news, right?
Yeah.
From our vantage point, it's going to have a little good and it's going to have a little bad. The good is, you're right. It's gonna bring more wrestling to Indianapolis, whether it's locals just discovering it or people that come from all over the country or all over the world to watch it while they're there. The problem, and we don't have this answer yet, so please do not make me dig into this because I don't have the answer yet. Uh, the problem we're going to show is we're always right around WrestleMania time, right? Because we're that Easter weekend, which is
Yeah.
usually a week or two before or a week or two after, somewhere in that realm. WrestleMania is coming to Indianapolis. When that is going to be, I do not have that answer yet, because we thought it was going to be this year, and then they went to Vegas. We thought it was going to be next year, and they're going to, is it Minneapolis? Maybe.
No, they're doing Minneapolis SummerSlam next year.
Oh,
They're going
that's
to
what it
New
is.
Orleans WrestleMania.
New Orleans, that's what it is. So we thought it was going to be next year, so it was going
Yeah.
to, now it's New Orleans. So we're kind of banking on it being that following year. We don't know.
And then likely they'll run SummerSlam in Indianapolis the year following that.
Right. So I'm not too worried about SummerSlam, but that WrestleMania year, we are either going to change our time of the year, or we're just going to take the year off, or we'll try to do it in a different city. I don't like any of those options personally,
Sure.
but it's one of those we'll cross that bridge when we come to it kind of scenarios. Because listen, people are like, no, dude, just run WrestleMania weekend. Just do it. Just run WrestleMania weekend. And I go, first off, I'm not competing with WrestleMania, not competing with WrestleCon, who follows WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It would be a nightmare. And it's just not something I'm interested in. So we have thrown around some ideas, but we don't know the answer yet. So
yeah, which I mean, effectively safe next year. We know it's going to be in New
Yep.
Orleans, so we can count on that next year. And it's not going to be Easter weekend next year for WrestleMania. So I mean, I would assume that would be the case. We talked about this in the past as well. Like, do you think that it could expand to other cities? I mean, you're a Cincy guy.
So here's the thing. Prior to Squared Circle Expo, me and my business partner Adolfo, who I'm sure you've seen run around just like me at the shows, me and Adolfo, we came from a convention of a different type. It was mostly a horror convention, but we branched out into wrestling and rock stars and stuff like that. And we ran up to 6 shows a year. So the thing is when we were running 6 shows a year, that was our career. That was how we made money. That was how we paid our mortgages. Squared Circle Expo is not that. Squared Circle Expo is a labor of love for both of us. We both have really solid careers that pay our bills every day and every month. We don't want it to start turning into a job, because when it starts to turn into a job, it stops being fun, and you can no longer focus on the fun. You have to focus on the profit. So as of right now, we're going to stick to the 1 day a year or 1 weekend a year. Could that change in the future? Never say never. But we want it to be a happening and an event and something that people plan for and something that doesn't kill us throughout the year. So right now we're going to stick with 1 annual event. Will it change? Possibly. Is it going to change tomorrow? No.
What, during your time during Squared Circle Expo, maybe pleasantly surprised you? Like, was there a specific turnout or maybe just specific person to deal with that you were just like, man, this went, even if you didn't have low expectations, it just blew away your expectations?
Yes, the answer is yes to both of those. One, the thing that shocked me the most, which shocked for the good, all positive. Um, I like to party. My name is Ed, and I like to party. And you go to wrestling conventions sometimes, and they shut down at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever it may be. There's nothing
Not
happening.
there.
There's nothing going on. And from our tenure at the other business venture, we like to cultivate a party. And I was worried that the wrestling fans of the wrestlers might not want to party late into the night hours, and I was wrong. I thankfully I was wrong. Everybody wants to party and everybody wants to have a good time. So Squared Circle Expo happens all weekend long, daytime, nighttime, and in those late hours. So I was pleasantly shocked that people wanted to party as much as I did, which is nice. But as far as dealing with somebody goes, 2 years ago, I dreaded working with MJF. I had
Oh
never
God.
I had never met the man. The only thing I knew was the person I saw on my television. And so we booked him. It was not cheap. Then we had a issue with scheduling. AEW bumped in there. We had to move some things around. Um, and it turns out he was perfect to deal with. He was the easiest businessman in the world to deal with. I don't know if me and MJF would go have beers, but when it come down to brass tacks and doing business, I could not have been more pleased than the business we did with MJF a couple of years ago.
I interviewed him there. It was honestly one of my favorite interviews. I've interviewed him a number of times. It was one of my favorite ones, but I'm messaging him to set up this interview, and the line is unreal. And normally I wouldn't be like, oh man, this long line. Listen, when you do the MJF experience, it's a different thing. He was taking people's stuff, signing it, and heaving it across the room. And people were like, yeah, yeah, tell me more. And I remember I messaged him and I was like, hey, I'll do this interview when it dies down. He goes, either it won't die down or I'll kill it. Something like that. I go back and there's dozens of satisfied and insulted people. He was signing people's faces. He was signing people's heads. It was phenomenal. And it was one of those things that it's one of our most viewed reels that we've ever posted on Instagram is him signing stuff and then like frisbeeing it. Like people loved that experience. You mentioned how you talk about experiences. You mentioned you're having over 100 wrestlers there. You could simply have Danhausen dress as every wrestler.
Well, Danhausen will be there. I don't know how
Well,
big the bag he's bringing is, but whoever he wants to put gimmicks in the bag, and he could dress up as just about anybody he wants.
I mean, that's one of my ideas for an animated film where Danhausen just voices everybody. And
I love it. I love it.
like he pretends they're different characters, but they're not. They're not. What would you like people to know about Squared Circle Expo if they've never attended before?
I said this once on a random post online somewhere, and I didn't think much of it at the time, and people started to tell me, dude, that's like a boss ass line. Like that's you should use that. And so I started to use it. And the short version of it is we're not in the business of selling photos and autographs. We're in the business of selling memories and experiences.
I love it.
And that's what I like to think of as Squared Circle Expo, right? So, people always ask, do you do mail-ins? Do you do bulk signings so I can buy autograph? No, we don't do any of that. Why? Could we do it? I'm sure we could. Could we make more money? Yeah, absolutely. but we're not selling autographs. We're selling memories and experiences. We want you to come to the show. We want you to meet that wrestler. We want you to have a good time. We want you to come have beer with Ed, right? That's what we want. That's what we want Squared Circle Expo to be. We're not a convention. We're a really cool party where people happen to be selling autographs.
It is a fantastic experience. I look forward to going up there every year. The moment I am able to book the Wyndham every year, I do it. In fact, I told you when we set this up, I was like, I forgot I even booked it. Like, I went through my email. I had booked that thing like 8 months ago. Like, I was like, hell yeah, man. But
Nice.
April 25th, 26th, Squared Circle Expo. I'll be running around there talking to people. Hope to meet many of you. Go to squaredcirclex.com. They are on Facebook, they are on Twitter, they're on Instagram, and come have an awesome time. Ed, I want to thank you as always for joining me.
Superstar, I appreciate it. That's what the S stands for, right?
Yes,
we figured that.
That's it.
We figured that out at Royal Rumble. The first S stands for superstar. Ross Sapp.
Please. Until
So,
next
brother,
time.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Until next time, my friends, we're out.
Peace.